Okay, we're going to get started here. Welcome, everyone. I see some familiar faces, so welcome back to those who have been here before. So glad that you have returned. Obviously, this is of value to you, so thank you for coming again. I think you're going to have a great time this afternoon hearing from our experts and hearing the patient perspective. Our topic today is about slowing the progressions of Parkinson's disease, and there's some really great information that you will get today. Just to give you background for those that are new here, this is a speaker series that we offer 2 times a year, and in the spring and in the fall. The next session will be probably September, October, this year. So once we have the date, we will email it out to you, or you can call the information, or you can always go contact Steph over there. Steph, do you want to wave? And she can make sure that you're always on the list to get the latest information. So this really is about having the opportunity for you to come and ask questions, have an intimate environment where you can hear from the experts and learn all about the amazing work that's going on here. The team here at Toronto Western Hospital is really world-renowned. It is one of the best in the world. And I think it's really important that we share this with you and have the opportunity for you to engage in a different kind of way than you might have on a regular basis. So thank you all for coming. I do want to acknowledge our donors who have helped sponsor these events for us, and John and Sheila Milne have supported us in the past for this. Unfortunately, they can't be here today, but I did want to acknowledge their support because they make this all possible. So thank you to the both of them. So we do have Dr. Kalia and Dr. Marras here who will be speaking. We will have a few patients up here to share their experiences as well. And they will present, and then we will have some time at the very end where you can ask some questions. So I'll make sure that we have some time because I know that's always important to everyone. So I do want to start off by introducing Dr. Susan Fox, who is the Associate Director of the Movement Disorders Clinic here at Toronto Western, and she is going to introduce Dr. Kalia and Dr. Marras.
All right, well, thank you very much, and I'm delighted that there's so many people here for our ongoing speaker series. This has been a wonderful series of events that we've had over the last 2 or 3 years, I guess now. Dr. Lang, unfortunately, is travelling. It's one of the perks and other parts of our job that we have to do. Perks as in you get to travel, but on the other hand, it's obviously busy and takes him away from the office, but it obviously is part of spreading the word in terms of research. So I'm here on his behalf as part of the clinic, and we're really pleased that we can continue to do this speaker series and share with you all of the work that we've been doing. So I'm delighted this afternoon to introduce my 2 colleagues, Dr. Lorraine Kalia and Dr. Connie Marras, who are going to give you a wonderful overview of what they're doing, and I'll hand it over to them. Thank you.
Great. So thanks for coming out on this dreary, cold May afternoon, and hopefully you'll appreciate coming out into this talk with us. I'm tag teaming with Dr. Marras today. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the kind of research that we do on Parkinson's disease, with some focus there. Hopefully not too much nitty-gritty science, but if you guys want to hear more or learn more, I'm happy to talk about it afterwards or answer questions. And then we really also want to involve patient participation, patient conversation about things that patients can do to be engaged in research, but also things that you can do on your own outside of the clinic to hopefully try and prevent progression of Parkinson's disease. So our focus here is how we can slow the progression of the disease, and three things that we're going to try and cover over the next 45 minutes or so is just a brief overview of our research and what we're doing to try and find new treatments in particular that slow Parkinson's disease. Because as many of you must know, we don't have any actual treatments that can prevent neurodegeneration that is associated with Parkinson's disease, but we really have only symptomatic therapies. We're then going to talk about examples of how patients contribute to our research. One common example of how patients engage in clinical research, and then one not so common example of how a patient in the clinic actually led us now down new paths in terms of research. And then the last part that I alluded to already is we're going to talk about patient activities that can be done outside of a clinic, separate and complementary to taking medicines that you may or may not have heard of, and to be able to give you the best information about that, we've recruited people who actually partake in these kinds of activities to be able to give you a first-hand account of why they did it and what it's like. So from my side of the research, the group of us at the Toronto Western Hospital, we all do a variety of different things. We tackle Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders from a variety of different angles. And my angle is to look at Parkinson's disease in the laboratory and really at the level of molecules and cells, because brain cells in Parkinson's disease die. This is the cause of the disease and the symptoms that are associated with Parkinson's disease. And if we can find a way to stop those brain cells from dying, we would have really important and transformational therapies. So my approach is to try and understand what molecules and cells are doing that lead to cell death. And this is done in the lab at the bench side, as you can imagine. And I have the good fortune of being able to work in this building that's just above you. That's a Krembil Discovery Tower that just was recently built in the past 4 or 5 years with state-of-the-art laboratory equipment and lab space. And what I'm showing you here is the interplay between the movement disorders clinic, seeing patients, studying patients at the level of clinical research, as Dr. Marras does, and how that can interplay with the actual neurodegenerative research lab. So if you look at the box on your right, this is a representation of, cartoon representation of what we do in the lab. So we try and understand things in a test tube. When we have a better understanding of things at that very simple level, we will then look at things in cells, actually cells that we grow in a dish. And then after we have a better understanding there, we'll go on to look at things in model systems. So those are animal models, some very simple animals, which I'll show you an example of in a bit, and some more complex animals such as rodents. And these we call preclinical studies, so studies before the clinic. So if we wanted to test a drug or to test a new potential breakthrough therapy, we would obviously want to be able to know that it works in these very simple systems before we went on to something more complicated and took more risky steps as to studying it in the clinical trial. So it's a back and forth. Within the lab, as you can see, there's a kind of circular iterative process that we do, but there's also a back and forth between the clinic, where what we discover in the clinic, we plan for it to translate to the lab, what we discover in the lab, we plan to translate to the clinic, and what we learn or observe or hear about from patients in the clinic, we also try and take that back to the lab to inform what the actual research that we're doing. I'm going to touch on one protein in particular that some of you may be familiar with, and it's the protein alpha-synuclein. This is one focus of research in my lab, and the reason that it is a major focus of research in my lab as well as others is that we really think that alpha-synuclein is a major culprit in causing Parkinson's disease. All of us have alpha-synuclein in our brain, and in fact, it's a very, very abundant protein in our brain. Some people estimate it as being as high as 1% of the total brain proteins that we have. But for some reason, not entirely understood, in Parkinson's disease, alpha-synuclein misbehaves, and what it tends to do is it tends to stick to itself. So one alpha-synuclein protein will stick to another alpha-synuclein protein, will stick to another alpha-synuclein protein, and that's what I'm showing here. So on the green on the left, you'll see normal alpha-synuclein sits around by itself, or it might stick to a couple of other alpha-synucleins, and it does something in the cell. We think that it's important in cells communicating with each other. But when alpha-synuclein starts to stick too much, and there are too many of alpha-synuclein proteins sticking together, it in some way disrupts cell function and leads to cell death. And that's what you see on the continuum over towards the right. And you may have heard the term Lewy bodies. So alpha-synuclein at its very substantially aggregated form actually forms Lewy bodies in cells. And this is a way that a neuropathologist will look at a brain and be able to say, yes, this person had Parkinson's disease in life. And that's the way that we actually diagnose Parkinson's disease at the autopsy level. So as you can imagine, if we could find a way to prevent alpha-synuclein from going on to making these big, larger, more toxic aggregates, we could potentially find a new treatment for Parkinson's disease. And so that's what we're trying to discover in the lab. And just to go back to the kind of model systems that we use, I just wanted to give you, outside of a cartoon picture, a real life picture of some of these systems. So on the left-hand side, these green glowing structures are actually cells that are growing in a dish. And they're not just cells, they're actually neurons. So they're actually brain cells that were able to grow in a dish. And the green color tells us that it has alpha-synuclein that is actually aggregated within it. So you can imagine if we could see green, we know that alpha-synuclein is aggregated. And if we try and find things that can reduce the green in these cells, that might be a clue as to ways that we can reduce alpha-synuclein. So if we treated these cells with drugs or chemicals or new compounds, we might be able to find things that could decrease alpha-synuclein aggregation. And then similarly, on the right-hand side of your screen, I'm just going to show one video today. This is a C. elegans, or a nematode worm, which is a very simple invertebrate animal system that we use. It moves, it has behaviors, it has neurons actually, and it actually has dopamine neurons, which we know are the neurons that are affected in Parkinson's disease. And so this becomes a very simple organism, far from a human. I'd never say if I found a drug that helped C. elegans, that would definitely be the cure for Parkinson's disease, but it's a step. So if we're looking at abnormal movements that happen because of alpha-synuclein in these worms. And again, if we're able to improve the abnormal movements in these worms with compounds or new drugs, that would give us a clue as to certain things that we might be able to test in rodents and then potentially in clinical trials. So one approach that we're taking is a repurposing or a repositioning approach. And some of you may have heard of this approach, and I'm just going to use this analogy to a non-pharmacological, non-drug analogy to illustrate this. So repurposing is taking something that had a function and giving it a new function. And so this is a picture of the Hearn power plant down near the water in Toronto. And it was built in the 1950s and for several decades served as a power plant, a coal generating power plant, and then a oil generating power plant. It was closed in the 1990s. And this past year I went to the Luminato Festival, and they've taken this power plant, so it used to generate power, and they've gutted it and have actually now made it a performance space. And so what used to be a power plant is now a facility where you can have music and dance, and that's what's shown here on the right. So that's an example, a real life example of repurposing or repositioning. We can do that with drugs too. So the example on the top, I'm using some drugs that you might be familiar with. The example on the top is not an example of repurposing, actually. The example on the top is levodopa-carbidopa, or Sinemet. And levodopa was very much developed understanding the disease, understanding Parkinson's disease. There is a deficit in dopamine. If we give a precursor to dopamine, we could replace the dopamine in people's brains, and that should help. And it did, and it's been an amazing treatment. As an example for a repurposed drug in Parkinson's that many of you will be familiar with, the bottom is amantadine. And that was actually a drug that was developed for influenza infections. And what the anecdote that's told and that's published in the literature is somebody who had Parkinson's disease, who had influenza, was given amantadine for treatment for the flu, and actually when they took amantadine they found that their Parkinson's symptoms were better. And then all of a sudden this drug became repurposed, so something that was intentionally intended for a flu now is a medication that initially was used for Parkinson's disease symptoms, and even more so we now know that it's useful for dyskinesias. So that is the approach for repurposing. And the rationale for repurposing is that there are a number of drugs that already exist that have been proven to be safe in humans, that have been tested on, if not in clinical trials, have been given to thousands and thousands of people and are known to be safe. If we could take those drugs and find ones within those that actually can be useful for Parkinson's disease, that would save us a number of years. So the years that it takes to take a drug from just early discovery to then being able to know if it's safe in humans, to know if it crosses the blood-brain barrier, all of these aspects. So the repurposing strategy, the intention is actually to really accelerate our ability to find new treatments for Parkinson's disease, which is the rationale for why we're taking this approach. And I'll introduce now that our initial approach was really to do a repurposing strategy by looking at drugs that we know are approved by Health Canada and studying them in some of the systems that I described to you in the lab. Similarly, Dr. Marras will describe that she can look at this at the level of human populations, and we were planning on a project where we would collaborate on this. And as it so happens, we had the fortune of one of the patients that you'll hear from in a moment coming to us, who said, you know what, we have this amazing, I work at IBM, we have this amazing new cognitive learning platform, a cognitive computing platform that might be able to help in discovering treatments for Parkinson's disease. And so we've actually taken this platform and put it upstream of what our original tests were to actually help us discover exciting new treatments that can then be tested in the lab. And you'll hear more about it in just a moment. So that's just the introduction.
Thanks, Lorraine. So I'll carry right on explaining this story about the drug repurposing strategy for Parkinson's disease treatment, but I'll give you a little bit of background. So the patient that Lorraine is talking about is here today, Jonathan Rezek, and he'll speak with us a little bit later. And I met him in the context of a clinical trial. So this was a treatment trial where we're studying another drug for its ability to slow the progression of Parkinson's disease, and Jonathan had volunteered to be a participant in that research. And in the course of many visits over time in following him along in that clinical trial, one day he was telling me about this new function that he had at work. He says, we have this computing tool, and my job is to adapt it to Parkinson's disease. And so he showed me the link on the computer to where I could find out more, and he said, please take a look at it. And so I went home and took a look at it, and he wanted me to figure out if I thought it had potential for helping us to understand more about Parkinson's disease and whether or not it could help us to find new drugs for Parkinson's disease. So after a few days of trying to understand what on earth this was that he was asking me to look at, I began to understand it a little bit, and gathered Lorraine and also another colleague, Dr. Vasanji, who is a scientist that we work with. And as a team, I thought that we had some ideas that could really be used, or that we could use this platform for. So it's called IBM Watson for drug discovery. And as Lorraine said, it's a form of artificial intelligence, and IBM Watson has the ability to very, very quickly, millions of times faster than the humans could, look at a body of literature and information and databases that are out there to find connections between things. And I won't go into its science more deeply than that, mostly because I don't understand it, but I do know what we did with it, and I'll tell you that story. So what Watson needs and what we gave it was, first of all, a training set, which you'll see up there on the top left labeled number 1. And this training set was a group of drugs that we knew did something that we thought was related, that we had evidence for from the literature, that was related to reducing the alpha-synuclein clumping together. So Dr. Kalia told you about the problem that we have with synuclein combining together in these protein clusters or clumps, and we knew that all of these drugs had some laboratory evidence for being able to reduce that or inhibit that from happening. And so what we asked Watson to do was look at all of the instances where these drug names are mentioned in its databases, in the literature, can survey the published medical literature, the abstracts that are available, and create some kind of a fingerprint for how these drugs are mentioned and in what context in the literature. And from what Watson learns about that, we can then ask Watson to apply this information to a candidate set of drugs. And here, as Dr. Kalia also mentioned, we use as a candidate set all the drugs that are approved in the Ontario Drug Benefit Formulary that we know are safe for use in humans because they're used in other medical conditions. And also, I could study them epidemiologically, and I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. And so this amounts to many hundreds of drugs. And in minutes, Watson gave us a ranking in terms of how much like the training set that we knew have this special laboratory property to be able to inhibit the clumping of alpha-synuclein, how much these new candidates that we really knew nothing about in terms of those properties, or that special property, ranked in terms of their similarity to these training drugs. So now we have a list, hundreds of entities long. I've just shown you the top of it there just to illustrate. And now we have to figure out whether Watson has led us to what we want, which is those things that are most probably able to inhibit the aggregation of alpha-synuclein, but we've never tested that in the laboratory before. And how could we go through thousands of drugs that we have, at our disposal that are known for use in humans, but when we go through them one by one without any prior knowledge, that would take years and years and years of work. So, and that's probably an understatement. So what Watson has done is given us some clues as to what we should focus on first. But in order to know whether or not Watson has told us anything sensible, we need to validate this. So we take the highest ranked drugs and we try to then study them, take them back into the laboratory where Lorraine will look at them in the C. elegans worms and see if they do indeed have that property. And what I'll do in healthcare databases on the other side is I have access to, through colleagues that work at another institute affiliated with Sunnybrook Hospital, I have access to all of the healthcare administrative databases. So for the 14 million people that live in Ontario, I can look at the information about what doctors they saw and also what drugs they took if they're over 65 and getting those paid for by the government. I can see what outcomes they have. Do they get admitted to a nursing home? Do they get started on certain drugs? And ultimately their survival. And so we can look and see if people that were exposed to, say, verapamil, which is their number one ranked drug there, and had Parkinson's disease, do they have better outcomes than people who didn't get exposed to verapamil, for instance? And that would provide human evidence that these drugs may be doing something useful. So in this sort of multi-pronged approach, we can put the information together and hopefully find medications that can be useful for slowing the progression of Parkinson's disease much, much faster than we would if we didn't know where to start. So that's the story of where we are now with our drug repurposing project that was brought to us by Jonathan. And now we need to find the funds to actually carry out these next experiments, but now hopefully with some compelling preliminary data to support our funding applications. And along in this story, I should also acknowledge Jonathan's tireless work finding funding to do what we already did. So it was $250,000 later with all of the people that were involved in helping us to do this with Watson that we get to this point. And it was actually remarkable how much he worked to make that happen. So I want to give you another example of drug repurposing for Parkinson's disease, but one that's also happening here at the Toronto Western Hospital, and is farther along than what I just showed you. And many of you may be able to reap the benefits of this project in your next few years. So the drug is called Isradipine, and this is the clinical trial for which I'm the principal investigator here at the Toronto Western Hospital, but it's not my conception. Many centers in North America are participating in this clinical trial. Isradipine is a drug that's used for high blood pressure, and it's approved for use in the United States. And we have cousins of it here in Canada that we use for blood pressure. But it was never thought of for use in Parkinson's disease originally until some laboratory studies were done, which showed that it did have some properties where it seemed to help the function of the nerve cells that would die in Parkinson's disease. And then those laboratory studies were followed up by what I call epidemiologic studies. I did one of these studies where we looked at this class of drug and it's that are approved in Ontario, and looked at whether or not people with Parkinson's disease who took these drugs did better than people who didn't. And indeed, we found that they did have longer survival. They had a longer time until they were placed in nursing homes or other assisted living centers. And although there are many possible explanations for this, this isn't a clinical trial, right? These are observational studies with a lot of potential confounding factors. But this was one of the studies, as well as a complementary one that was done in Denmark, that were used to support the application for funding for clinical trials in humans. And now it's gone through safety and tolerability studies in 100 patients, which showed it to be tolerated by people with Parkinson's disease. And right now, there is an efficacy study going on called Steady PD3 with 300 patients, and it's a 3-year clinical trial that we hope to have some first results on in about spring of next year, so about a year from now. And hopefully it will be shown to slow the progression of Parkinson's disease. And the beauty of this approach is that once it does that, then they don't have to apply for Health to Health Canada and the FDA for approval for a completely new compound, but they can translate this quickly into use in the clinic. And we have a number of our patients who are participating in this clinical trial to help us in this process, including Jonathan. So I think that's I wanted to give you these 2 snapshots of what we're doing to see if we can slow the progression of the disease. As Lorraine, to give you the big picture, as Lorraine said earlier, we currently don't have drugs that slow the progression of Parkinson's disease that we can use in the clinic. So this is a critical unmet need that we need to advance on, and hopefully the repurposing strategy can help us do that quickly rather than at the snail's pace that research sometimes proceeds. So I will stop there, and I think next on the agenda was to talk to some patients. Is that right?
Yep.
I think Jonathan next. Jonathan, come on up and we'll... No need for stairs. You sit here.
I sit here. Okay.
Yeah. No need for stairs for Jonathan. All right. So they've already heard some of how you're here and why you're here and what you involve yourself in other than just taking the medicines that I may recommend to you. So maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about what motivated you to first of all participate in the clinical trial that I've alluded to up there.
In a word, hope.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be passive and just sort of let it happen to me, so I wanted to do anything I could to try to push back. That was part of it, so I wanted to participate. The other thing was I was trying to help advance research, so I didn't mind being a guinea pig. And so the upside was it was actually going to be effective, and I just thought it was sort of paying it forward a little bit.
So you didn't want to be a guinea pig, but... Oh, okay. So Jonathan said that he... do you want to read the main things? I'll paraphrase. Yeah.
Better job than I am.
Jonathan said that it provided him with hope.
Yes.
And also that I understood that you said you didn't want to be a guinea pig when you thought that this being so that implies that being a participant in this kind of clinical trial was less risky for you than maybe some others.
It was, and I just felt that for me it was just I wanted to see how I could help. So for me, participating in the trial was helpful. What I thought was my contribution. So that was as simple as that.
So it wasn't entirely for hoping for benefits for yourself.
No, I mean, given the fact that levodopa was, I think, brought to market in 1960, and roughly when I was born, I wasn't exactly betting on it, but.
And although I'm hearing some motivations that are not selfish, participating in this trial been of some personal, given you some personal satisfaction along the way? Immensely.
The thing about the whole thing for me is I didn't want to be passive. I didn't want to be just a witness to what was going on. I wanted to try to push back, fight back, And so I feel like I'm contributing by being part of a clinical trial. It's very simple. Everything about it is just to be stubborn and try to keep a positive attitude, and just makes me feel like this is helping out.
And what other things do you do to manage your Parkinson's disease?
So there are two things. The first thing is I exercise a lot. I exercise every day. I came to you about 6 months ago, and I was really, really tired. I just couldn't. It was hard to get out of bed. It was just really, really tough. So I bought myself a rowing machine, and I've rowed every morning, pretty much 6 days a week for the last 6 months. And I found that my energy level has gone up dramatically. I feel more positive. My attitude is better. And the other thing is that, when I got diagnosed with Parkinson's, everybody was saying, well, when are you going to stop working? And I thought, no, I'm not going to stop working, because I was trying to keep my mind as active as possible. So everything for me is just trying to keep stimulated and hang out with lots of people who challenge me, which is part of the benefit of being part of the study, is that you get to hear the latest in research. I get to ask you my really stupid questions, and it's just a form of engagement.
And so specifically, what role do you think exercise for you plays in managing your Parkinson's disease? Do you think it's specific to slowing the progression of your disease, or do you think it has other side benefits as well?
Energy level, optimism. I think the hardest part for me with Parkinson's was the physical stuff. I played sports a lot. I was always banged up. I could deal with it. It was the psychological implications of Parkinson's that was really hard. I found that the thing that precipitated my going on levodopa in the first place was not the physical. It was the thing that I needed help with what was going on up here. So I find that exercise has been a real curative for me in that way. I find that it really, really helps me with my attitude. So that's definitely benefit. The other thing is talking to Shane before, and as Parkinson's progresses, you get stiffer and you lose your mobility and your balance. And I find that exercise, because I do more in row, but I find that it just keeps me more limber, and it helps. I mean, anything you can do to just keep active, even if it's just break a sweat, as somebody once told me, it's what you want to do when you have Parkinson's.
You've mentioned energy and physical benefits. Do you think it's your job is very cognitively demanding? Do you think it's helped you cognitively? It
has. It definitely has. The weirdest part about it is I have a terrible memory, as you know, but my memory seems to have improved a bit. And I couldn't tell you a percentage, but I find that I'm more alert, and I find that I do remember things better than I did, a couple of years, a little while back. So who knows? But I like to believe it, and I'm going to take that as faith, as gospel.
Right. And are you the prime motivator for your exercise, or do you have a coach or somebody who helps you?
No, it's me.
It's you.
It's me. I drag myself out of bed in the morning, have a coffee, read a bit, and then I just, come hell or high water, go downstairs and row for half an hour.
Well, good for you. Not everybody could do that.
I couldn't, but I'm motivated now, because I know if I don't take an active role in my managing my disease, nobody else is going to.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have any other advice for the audience other than what you've expressed so far?
I think it keeps down to keep active physically and keep active mentally, and just get out and get engaged. It's the best advice I can give.
Right. Does anybody have questions for John? Yes.
How long are you on medication?
Few years. I'm not good with. Like I said, my memory's terrible. 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
The implication was that it might slow the progression of the disease. Did you notice that if I was around? Do you have a benchmark?
The exercise?
Yeah.
I just know that my mood is much better since I started exercising. There's no two ways about it. And the thing is, I was sitting in Dr. Marras' office going, I need help. I can't cope. I'm so tired. And simultaneously, in and around that time, I just got an exercise machine, the rowing machine. And I found that I'd love to be able to be precise, but I knew that within a very short time, I was feeling better. And I found that I was able to, when I was having a bath or a shower, I was able to wash myself. I had more mobility. So I just found it really helped. I mean, as part of doing this Watson project with the Movement Disorders Clinic, I get to run into a lot of neurologists, and they unfailingly say things like exercise is medicine, and they always, after the formal meetings are over, you're walking with them, you're talking about your personal history, and they're always saying things like, "Are you exercising?" So when you have that many smart people who are engaged and know the subject really well, and they're all saying the same thing, even I can figure that out. It makes some sense.
Is there a form of exercise that you find more therapeutic or effective than?
I hated running. I found I'm a bit more timid now cycling than I used to be. I still bike in the summer, but not as much as I used to. And in the wintertime, I'm a big baby. I don't want to get wet. So I found rowing has just been absolutely fantastic for me because it gives you full range of motion. It works the entire body out. You can go at your own pace. You can push yourself when you have more energy than you don't. So I'm a big proponent of the rowing machine. And I do weights as well, but mostly rowing.
So,
What type of machine do you need for rowing?
Oh.
I don't exactly know what he means by rowing.
I think we're putting Jonathan a bit on the spot for as an exercise expert.
I like to pretend to be an expert, but not.
Yeah.
My husband, he doesn't like to walk at all or exercise. And I encourage it and I go to these lectures and he hears it over and over again. And for some reason, he's not
Right.
doing it.
Well, maybe this is a good time for me. I have a few slides about exercise, and I can tell you what we do know, and that'll give you a bit of perspective on this. And we will take questions again at the end for. Pardon me.
How long do you have Parkinson's?
I was diagnosed probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Is the medication cinnamon helping the level of iron?
I beg your pardon?
The cinnamon.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Is that recovery pain?
Let me just I want to just stay focused on the exercise topic for a moment because I do have more to contribute to that discussion, and I think it's a good segue what Jonathan has said there. So I'll let you,
Thank you.
go. Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much, Jonathan. That was, I think it's really helpful. As you can see, people want to know more from other people with Parkinson's disease. So that's a testament to how helpful that was. Thank you. So I've titled this slide "What We Know," which actually is a clue to the fact that we don't know a lot about exercise and what it is, what it does for Parkinson's disease. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of how this has been studied, and also the questions that remain. Okay, so one of the ways in which this has been studied is through, again, epidemiologic research looking at populations. And this paper was a very important paper in this regard. And what they did was that they took a very, very big cohorts from the United States. You can see there 48,000 men and 77,000 women provided information on physical activity when they were throughout their life, actually. And when this data was analyzed in terms of the relationship between physical activity in early adulthood and Parkinson's disease, they found that greater physical activity in men was associated with a lower risk of ultimately getting Parkinson's disease. Okay, and that was the conclusion from this paper. However, with these sorts of observational studies, we can't tell whether or not early life physical activity prevents Parkinson's disease or reduces its risk, or whether or not people who are at risk for getting Parkinson's disease have some sort of personality trait or things that they do that cause them to exercise less. Okay, so the direction of that association is quite unclear, and as some of you may know, Parkinson's disease has its own associations with personality. We call it the Parkinsonian personality, where certain personality traits are known to be risk factors for getting Parkinson's disease. So that there are a lot of behaviors early in life that are associated with Parkinson's disease, maybe not because they changed the risk, but maybe just that was destined to be the case. This is another study that we're actually contributing to here at the Toronto Western Hospital, and it is the National Parkinson Foundation Quality Improvement Initiative Registry Study. And this is a study that sees patients annually and follows them for changes in their Parkinson's disease symptoms and also outcomes, including quality of life, physical function, and cognitive function. So far, there are about 4,000 to 5,000 patients that are in this study, including about 300 from our own clinic. And the people tell us every time that they're assessed whether or not they exercise regularly or not. And then we can follow them along for how well they do. And this particular analysis has found that if you exercise more than 150 minutes per week, then you have, over time, better quality of life, better mobility, better physical function, less caregiver burden, and also less cognitive decline. And this is trying to account for all the differences between people in terms of PD severity at baseline, so that those differences between people are taken into account. So everything else being the same, it appears that regular exercisers have better outcomes. And then getting into the more, what is sort of research that can really get at the causes of things and tell us probably result in more firm conclusions, which are randomized controlled clinical trials. There have been a number of randomized trials of exercise programs, and including aerobic exercise. And this is a meta-analysis where they take a whole bunch of clinical trials and the results from them, and they put them together to see whether or not there are consistent findings. And this particular meta-analysis that was published quite recently showed that the aerobic exercise seems to indeed improve movement, balance, and walking in the term of weeks to months from doing it. And lots of different types of exercise have been studied, though: treadmill, amplitude training. You've probably heard of the LSVT BIG program, where we try to emphasize the amplitude of movements or the size of movements that people make. Tai Chi, tango, boxing, cycling. And there does seem to be retention of benefits over at least months. Okay, but what we don't know is whether or not that benefit translates into years. You know, how much change in the brain does this actually make? But if it is sustained over months, that observation, and indeed animal studies, would suggest that there is some neuroplasticity that's going on, that the brain can reorganize itself, form new connections, and that should be of some sustained benefit. And this is complementary to any medical therapy that we can provide. So, but what we don't know is what kind of exercise is best. So you ask about what rowing machine should I buy? I have no idea, and neither does anybody else, because nobody studied what rowing machine is best. We don't know how much is enough exercise. We don't know how long it lasts beyond a couple of months, and does it work in more advanced Parkinson's disease? You know, it's not easy for people with more advanced disease to exercise. But it does seem from that National Parkinson Foundation study that even people with more disability can probably benefit from it. And so that we generally encourage everybody to do it. So that's what I wanted the perspective that I give you about what we do know and what don't know about exercise so far. And I think at this time we could maybe learn a little bit more about what other activities people are doing. Another one of my patients, Hugh Couchman, has kindly agreed to come and give his perspective on it. And I know that he has some experience also with boxing program, and so he could perhaps give us some ideas about that. Hugh, come on up.
Sit, Mike.
There we go. Okay. So same idea, Hugh, as for Jonathan. What would you say you do outside of taking my advice about the medication for your Parkinson's disease, and what does it do for you?
So I guess I try and do 3 things. I exercise, which I'm going to tell you more about. I try and not say no to activities that my wife suggests, so social activities, even though I want to just stay home sometimes. And I found it's sort of a bit like being retired. I have to have a project to do, so something I'm working on. I am still working, but I need to have something particular I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. And what I gather that would the projects in particular would probably have emotional benefits, not necessarily physical benefits to you. Is that important to you? Am I inferring the right thing there?
Yes, I mean, the sort of projects I'm thinking about are perhaps computing projects. So, for example, last fall, I had a project at work I abandoned, a research project I abandoned in 1992, and I actually decided I'd finish it, or see if I could finish it last fall, and I did. It was fantastic. It was, very, very satisfying, of course.
Mm-hmm. Is it harder to get motivated about things since you were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease?
Oh no, not at all. I'm kidding. It's incredibly difficult to get motivated. So somebody was asking earlier about medication. So I actually, not to give too much away, but I found medication didn't really do anything for me until about a bit over a year ago. And I actually had a very bad year where, looking back on it, it felt like I was just sitting on the couch most of the time. And so, I had to actually try very hard to motivate myself to do things. It is quite a challenge.
And once you do get into things, I know you're participating in the Rocksteady boxing program, right? And can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that and what you feel that has done for you personally?
Right. So notwithstanding what I said about sitting on the couch, I've actually always been quite physically active. So I rode both on the water and on a machine. I cycled, cross-country skied, did all sorts of canoeing and outdoor stuff. But as my symptoms progressed, I felt that I needed to do something which was going to be a bit more helpful for Parkinson's. And so I'd read that, there were 2 things which might be particularly useful for Parkinson's. One was dancing and the other was boxing. And I can't dance worth a damn, so I went with the boxing. And there was I don't know if any of you saw it, there was a piece on CBC News a bit over a year ago about Rocksteady coming to Toronto. And as soon as I saw that, with some pushing from Natasha, my wife, signed up right away. And it's been fantastic. Do you want me to say a bit more about what it entails?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for people. I get a whole lot of questions about it,
right.
And so and I've never been there, so it'd be helpful for me too.
So I think the first thing to say is that it's of course non-contact boxing, but it actually has relatively little to do with what you might naively think of boxing to be. So, I mean, you can see I'm not the sort of person that you would mind meeting on a dark alley. I can't box worth a damn. But it's actually so much more than that. You do just about every exercise that you can think of that would be helpful. So there's flexibility, there's speed training, there's aerobics, there's strength, and there's coordination. And then there's all sorts of interesting sort of what I call physical cognition tests. So, they number the punches, there's 1, 2, left, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on whether they're jabs, hooks, uppercuts, and whatever. And so they give you a sequence of, 631 or something like that. And you have to try and translate that into the particular punches. And it's just great. So there's that physical aspect of it, and they stream you into your ability groups. And I only know about the sort of less advanced symptom group. Mary and Shane can hear from Rocksteady, can tell you more about the other groups. But I think really what I find most useful is just being in a group of people who are suffering in a similar way that you are, but you're doing something proactive. I've been to many lectures like this, which are incredibly helpful, but they're very passive. You're sitting, absorbing information. This really feels like a forum. The Rocksteady feels like a forum in which you can actually be very proactive and participate in something and do something. Our abilities range hugely. I would put myself somewhere in the middle. I can do some things quite well, and I'm pretty hopeless at other things. And for different people, it's very different. But nonetheless, we're sort of all in it together, trying our best and having a lot of fun. It's a huge amount of fun.
Mm-hmm. And how did you go about finding out about the different things that you might do outside of the Movement Disorder Center for your Parkinson's disease?
Dr. Google.
Mm-hmm.
When I was diagnosed, which was 2012, and I actually knew I had Parkinson's quite a bit before that. I just did a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And as I say, that's where I discovered that, non-contact boxing and dancing were perhaps some of the physical or exercise-related things you could do. And, there are a whole bunch of other things to do with nutrition and, how much you drink or don't drink or everything like that. And, unfortunately, I did feel a bit unlucky in that, I never drank very much. I always exercised. I was never particularly overweight or any other of, these risk factors. Mm-hmm. And yet I got the one disease I really hoped I wouldn't get.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that you never were a boxer, you never imagined yourself as a boxer, but it seems that despite this activity, you found that you connect with what it's doing for you, and it's become something that you feel has helped. And so I suppose I'm taking from that a message that, don't discount it just because you've never done it before, or it doesn't seem to be sort of in your personality niche.
No, not at all. In fact, I'd go further than that. I thought boxing was pretty stupid because, we've got an incredible organ up here. You don't want to try and beat the blazes out of it. But, it's called boxing, but you do things with your arms, which actually for me is very useful because I've actually lost a lot of strength in my upper body. But that's just a small part of what you do. It's just all-round good exercise in an environment which is a lot of fun.
That's very good. Thank you. I don't want to take up the time that we should devote to our third guest, who's also here today to talk about the dancing program and also his experience. So I'll hold any questions until the very end. But I will mention before we leave, Hugh, that we have also Shane, who put up your hand, Shane, also participates in the Rocksteady boxing program and knows a lot about it and does a slightly different program, as I understand it, than Hugh. And so if people have questions at the end, I think Shane is more than willing to answer them as well.
And there's some information here in case anyone's interested.
Oh, very good. Yeah, and Hugh has some brochures as well that people can avail themselves of, or to at least take a peek at before you leave. Yeah, so thank you very much, Hugh, for sharing that with us.
And so I'll introduce Charles Dennis, who's going to come up, and I'll just switch chairs. So Charles is here to talk to us about his experience with dancing with Parkinson's disease. And Charles and I actually don't have a patient-physician relationship. I had the fortune of meeting Charles just a couple of weeks ago when we had a dance event here at the Toronto Western Hospital, and on World Parkinson's Day, a ton of people with Parkinson's disease as well as people without Parkinson's disease danced in our atrium. So many of the questions I'm going to ask Charles are going to be similar, just so you can hear other patient perspectives, and also how dance has, obviously, me just listening to Hugh talk, many similarities to boxing, but potentially some differences too. So, I mean, to begin with, Charles, I'll start with the same question that Connie's been asking everyone, is what, outside of what we tell you to do in clinic and medications that we prescribe to people with Parkinson's, what do you do outside of that for your Parkinson's?
I dance twice a week. I am in the chorus, which is singing with Parkinson's. Basically, if you took what Hugh said, took out boxing and put in dancing, a lot of that would, I was never a dancer. I danced in a high school musical, and it was a lot of sort of moving back and forth sideways, but not anything major. I was diagnosed, and I was a little blindsided by things. But we had just recently moved to Canada. I came from the United States, and it was sort of like, came to Canada, and here's your gift, Parkinson's. It's like, oh, great, thank you so much. And I made the decision that I was going to start to look into things, and my partner was pushing me. I didn't have a choice to make that decision, which was fine. And I got involved with the dancing, and as Hugh said, he was never a boxer. I was never a dancer. In my best days, I had no rhythm. And I think for me what it is, it's taking charge of something, and it's turned into fun. It has led me to projects within the dancing that, if you had told me a year ago I'd be doing an intergenerational dance project on original work with a choreographer and performing it in a theater, I would have had a really good time laughing at you because I knew you were crazy.
Maybe just before, can you tell us a little bit more about that experience? Because I had the pleasure of being able to watch it, but it was really something special that I think it would be great to describe.
It was, I can't remember her name, Anissa
Tejpar,
thank you, is a choreographer, and I knew no choreographers in the city, so she was introduced to us. And what the idea was to get seniors or people with Parkinson's. I'm 60, so I'm a senior, but I don't have to be. And youth, which are really young, it seems. They're high school and early college, and at the Randolph Academy. And we sort of got together and did a lot of workshopping of things, which turned into a piece which changed radically from what it started. What the vision at the beginning was, and what we ended up performing, were like red and blue. They were totally different. It was a lot of fun because you were challenged to do things. The one thing with dance, like boxing, everyone performs at their own ability level. We do a lot of people at the dance class are in chairs. It's more important that you move than you move the way you're supposed to. If everybody's going this way and you go that way, it's no big deal. You may hit their hand, but you make a friend if you hit them enough. The project that we did explored youth and elder relationships and how we kind of started talking about. We did a lot of talking. We made lists of things, our bucket lists, their bucket lists, things that we had done that we were proud of, things they had done, and we compared that. And then Anissa took that and turned it into choreography. And we performed it at Randolph Academy to a very, very favorable audience. They were on our side before we got there. But it was a lot of fun, and I had not danced like that since I was in my high school musical, which was in 1975. So, and for me, the dance has been the first component of staying busy, because it's really easy to sit down and be unhappy. And the socialization, I got my doctor through dance. I got referrals on things to do through dance. You get encouragement, you make friends, you help each other. And it feels really good at the end. I too have brochures on the dance. We dance at, there's 11 locations in Toronto and across Canada. Sarah Robichaud is the founder of Dancing with Parkinson's. And the classes are very inexpensive. If you are unable to pay for those classes, she's happy to work with you. She'd rather have you there dancing than sitting home because you didn't have it or you don't feel like it. And there are days when dances can be that day and I'm sort of like, oh, I really just like to stay home and not do anything. But I know the next week I go, I'll get read the riot act from everybody that was there. So it's just a whole lot easier to get it over with and not have to worry about it.
Do you think that dance has impacted the progression of your disease? What's your perception there?
I think so. My partner thinks that it has, and I'm told that people have seen improvement. That's the hard thing. I can't see improvement. I didn't see the initial damage that was being done, so I can't see the regression of that. I probably could if I looked, but you don't look in the mirror that long.
Right.
I find that the dance, my favorite part of our dance is when it's kind of what I call freestyle interpretive, when we're moving in our own way to the music and being creative. Because it's very exciting for me to be able to sort of match a movement to music and think that I'm making something beautiful. It may not really be that pretty and it may not be that hard, but it's fun to do that. I think there are some people, some of whom are here, have told me that they see that it's made a big difference in me. I can't see it because I'm living inside it, but I have the luck of people that can give me that feedback.
Okay, great. So I want to have enough time for questions so we can ask all of our guests questions. So thank you very much,
Okay.
Charles. Straight to question. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I have one just summary slide and then we can just pop in. I just want some take-home messages and then please questions around everything from today. So take-home messages, major take-home messages from today is that drug repurposing is a strategy that we're hoping is going to lead to new and better treatments for Parkinson's disease, and we're actively pursuing that. Participation of people with Parkinson's disease is crucial, necessary for us to really advance the field to improve things for people and families who have Parkinson's disease, and regular exercise in a variety of different ways, and we can have depending on how people want to have this discussion, is an important complementary therapy for people with Parkinson's disease. And as you've heard yourself from different types of activities, they really can have an important day-to-day impact. And so that's it from take-home messages, and so I saw lots of hands up, and so we're happy to answer questions.
Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes for questions, and everyone will hang around for a little bit afterwards, so I'm sure we won't be able to do everyone. So we've got a microphone here, and Steph will come around. So Steph, you want to go over there first?
Thank you. I have 2 questions. One was about the slide with the men and the women, with the 77,000 women and so on, and the 48,000 men, I think it was. And it said that there was a difference in how the men did. It didn't reference how the women did.
Right.
The second question really has to do with, at one point you touched on, you said a personality type with reference to Parkinson's.
Right, so you picked up on the fact that the results were significant in men, suggesting an association between exercise, early life exercise in men and less Parkinson's disease. It was not significant in women, and we can't infer why that is from this study. There was a slight trend in women, but it didn't approach significance. It seemed to be more significant in men, but the randomized controlled trials have included both men and women and have shown benefits. So, I mean, I think it's one of the difficulties of observational research. There are a lot of confounding factors, right? And the second question, I'm sorry, the Parkinsonian personality. Just a few words, type A personality. Very goal-driven, focused, always needs to be on time. Very low risk-taking personality has been associated. So you can all be introspective for a minute. Yes, I think so. Yeah, I'm not aware of sex differences there. Yes.
My question is, when you were saying you said the cells dies, what part of the dopamine center in the brain, how much cell dies with Parkinson's?
As you know, in adulthood, all of our cells are dying. There's neurons that are dropping out and dying as the process of aging goes. What happens in Parkinson's disease and other types of diseases we call neurodegenerative diseases, so that would include things like Alzheimer's disease, Lou Gehrig's or ALS, prion disease, cells die at a faster rate. And what differentiates, say, Parkinson's disease from Alzheimer's disease is that it's different types of brain cells that die. In terms of the percentage, what people will often quote, so there are these cells that make dopamine, and that's why we use medications like Sinemet and levodopa and dopamine agonists to replace the dopamine. Just from the percentage point of view, so typically from autopsy studies and from imaging studies, we estimate that by the time somebody has symptoms, gets to the neurologist who says, yeah, it looks like you have Parkinson's disease, that those dopamine cells, that they can, as many as 60% of them can already be dead. So there can be a loss of 60% of neurons. And the interesting but the important fact of that is that that means that before somebody reaches their neurologist and gets a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, that there's cell death that's going on even earlier. And so another very active area of investigation and research is to try and identify those earlier stages, because the idea would be if we could actually intercede or have some intervention at that very early stage, then maybe we'd even be able to reduce further progression of the disease even before you get to the point of having tremor or stiffness or slowness. Do Parkinson's patients typically develop Alzheimer's? Gradually. So some of this becomes a bit of an academic discussion, because Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease, at the end of the day, we make diagnoses in the clinic, but there's also diagnoses that are made by the neuropathologist. So those Lewy bodies that I talked about at the beginning, these clumps of alpha-synuclein, when a neuropathologist sees that in a brain and the patient had Parkinson's symptoms in life, they'll say, yes, this person definitely had Parkinson's disease. In some cases, though, when the pathologist is also looking at the brain, they'll also see different characteristic features that they would see in Alzheimer's disease. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they had Alzheimer's disease in life. But if you're using the term Alzheimer's disease synonymously or similarly as dementia, we do know that there can be cognitive impairments that can be associated with Parkinson's disease, definitely. But we don't call that Alzheimer's disease. We call that Parkinson's disease dementia. So we don't, yeah. So the caveat is we don't have anything that stops the cells from dying. And that's a major challenge for us, and that's a major area of investigation for us. All we have right now, which is effective, and I think a lot of people can describe what it felt like before they were on Sinemet and what it was like after they were on Sinemet or levodopa, is that we can just replace the chemical that those brain cells made. And that's what we do with levodopa. Okay, other questions? If we can allow other people to ask questions. Yeah?
My major symptom is drooling. Does it make any difference compared to what you would recommend?
Drooling. So drooling, we have an arsenal of different kinds of treatments that we use for that. when it gets to the point that the Parkinson's medication doesn't really help that, there's actually other types of treatment, not dopamine replacement treatments, but more specific treatments that either dry up the mouth is really the major strategies that we use. But there's a handful of things that can be tried.
Okay. I think this is our last question for this evening. Please go ahead.
My original question was going to be about medication, specifically levodopa. When I was diagnosed, my doctor, Dr. Miyazaki, she told me I had Parkinson's, but I actually had Parkinson's for probably 12 years. She prescribed levodopa, but she said to me, because I have had the symptoms so long, it may not do anything for the symptoms, but it might make me ill, sick to my stomach. God love her, she was right on both counts. So I stopped taking the levodopa. I'm wondering now whether I might be due to take it again. But in light of what your three guests talked about, I am in my 87th year. I've been playing tennis for 25 years. And when I read about boxing and dancing, I thought many of the movements of boxing and dancing happen in tennis. I have to plan my shots. I do the foot movements as in boxing. And I do a bit of dancing on the courts as well. So I wonder if my tennis for 25 years has anything to do with the lack of aggressiveness of my symptoms and anything to do with levodopa. Have you got the basic question?
I got the basic question, yes. And I think the answer is we don't know, but your observation is consistent with a lot of the research that's being done about exercise, in that there are many different exercises that seem to help. Every single type of exercise that's been studied practically, whether it be resistance training, aerobic exercise, or stretching, has been shown to have some physical benefit. Whether or not it slows the progression of the disease, which you're getting at, is more difficult to prove. But as I alluded to in my slides, the benefits seem to be durable for at least months beyond the time of stopping exercise. So something seems to be happening that's sustained. And animal studies, animal models of Parkinson's disease, and also imaging studies of the brain of people with Parkinson's disease who are assigned to exercise versus not exercise, suggest that there's definitely something happening at the neuronal level that changes the way they behave and the connections that they make. So I think it's entirely plausible that vigorous, sustained exercise has made a difference to you in the long term.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will have time for questions after that. Hopefully Dr. Marras and Dr. Kalia will stick around here. I know we do have to close up for the formal part of today. Clearly that there are some clear messages here about exercise, which is very important, and I think the other aspect is about the research. I neglected to introduce myself, so I apologize. I will do that very quickly now. My name is Lisa Jerome. I'm the fundraising director for the Movement Disorders Clinic and the whole research area here. And I do want to point out that we spoke about our research today, and none of this would be possible without donor support. So I do want to point that out, that, they talked about getting the money for the Watson program and trying to scrape that together. And philanthropy and investment in this research is really what is going to take us further in understanding this disease and finding some help. So, I do want to point that out. We have many, many research projects that go on here, various other programs that are requiring of investment. So if any of you do have interest, I know some of you already are very generous donors to us, but if you are interested, we would be more than happy to speak with you, as well as the whole team at the Movement Disorders Clinic. They would be happy to speak with you as well. So I do want to say thank you to Dr. Kalia, Dr. Marras, but also to our guest speakers today, Jonathan and Hugh and Charles. Thank you very much. I think hearing that patient perspective is very, very important to all of you. And I hope that you have found some value in today. We have videotaped this, so we do have all of our previous speaker series as well online. So this one will go up. We will circulate it to everyone as long as we have your email address. So please make sure that on the way out, if we don't have your email address, give it to us and we'll make sure we circulate this to you, and to also keep you in the loop for all of these other ones going forward. So also, if you have any other feedback, we would be more than happy to hear if you value this, if not, what topics, etc. So I want to say thank you again to everyone for all your participation. Thank you.